Hello and welcome to your Sweet 16 Owners class. So if you're watching this video, you might have just purchased a Sweet 16, second-hand, brand new, doesn't matter. They all work excellent. Or you might be rewatching this just for some tips and tricks to get you started quilting again. So first up, let's get straight into it and see what comes in the box. Okay, so let's have a look, see what comes in the box. If you purchased it brand new, this is what you should get. A bottle of oil, a small screwdriver, this one is for adjusting our bobbin case, a lint brush, a 2.5mm Allen hex for changing our feet and needles, an open toe foot, your closed toe will be on the machine, bobbin case, you should get 5 bobbins and 2 packets of needles, a size hundreds and hundreds and tens. You will also get your bobbin winder as well, which we'll now have a look at. Okay, let's have a look at our bobbin winder. So to set it up, all you need to do is put the spool holder on. Thread mast goes directly above the spool holder, and this little pigtail you want about 90 degrees. Then all you need to do, get your spool of thread, go up through the thread mast, through the little pigtail here, and then we come to our tension discs. So this tension disc is exactly the same as the one on the machine. So what you want to do, hold both sides and you want to floss it in the discs. If you don't floss it in, you could have no tension on it at all and you'll get a spongy bobbin, which we do not want. So once you've got it through the discs, give it a little pull, make sure you've got some tension. If you feel that it's too loose or too tight, we can just adjust the black knob here. We turn it clockwise to tighten, anti-clockwise to loosen. Then we get our bobbin. So all the new Handi quilter bobbins, if you've got an old second-hand machine, it might be completely blank. But nowadays, all the bobbins come with a little slot, and we feed the thread through the slot. So it's basically hanging on there. Place it onto our spindle. Hold the tail. I wind about half speed, so about 5 to 6. And then hit my start, give that tail a little pull, and then it will wind the bobbin nice and full. So it actually has a sensor here, so as soon as the thread is filled up to the top, the sensor will stop the machine and you'll have a nice full bobbin. So as you can see, we have a nice full bobbin here, the machine stopped by itself, and then we can just trim our threads and use it in our quilt. Now let's thread the machine. We go from our spool pin, and I've got my thread here. Nice high contrast thread so you can see it, if I can find the end. Place it on. So it doesn't matter if it's a small spool like this or a big cone, because we have all that space. We go straight up to our thread mast, which gives us our vertical thread delivery. Then we go to guide number 1. With these guys, you can basically just pull it through and it clips in, or you can thread it through from the back to the front. We follow the machine down and then we get to our 3-hole guide at the front. With our 3-hole guide, we always go from back, forward, around, back, forward. So let's have a go. So I'm going through the top hole here. And then I come around, and then from the back, forward again, and around, back, forward. So you're going to ask, why do I have 3 different holes? So the amount of holes you go through is determined by the strength of the thread. A stronger thread can have more tension, so therefore it can get wrapped around more times. If you're using a specialty thread or something, you might go through 1 or 2 holes. But in another video, I'll talk all about thread and tension and what to do. So once we've gone through our 3 holes, we come to the next guide, which this actually puts the thread on top of our tension discs. Then we got our same discs as we do on the bobbin winder. So we want to hold either side and floss it in. You want to give that a good pull. But this time, we have a little black spring. So we have to go over that spring and then under this bar here, which allows that spring to spring. right? That way, you know you've got it in the discs and we've got some tension. So if I give that a pull now, I can feel that tension on there. If I've not got it in the discs, it's just going to flow through and that spring's not going to do too much. So you want to make sure you're in the discs, you're flossed in, and you have a nice bit of tension. From here, now I've got all this extra thread. Let me just pull it backwards. We're going to go through our take-up lever, again from the back to the front. Hard to see from this angle. And then at this point you want to make sure that the thread doesn't get all wrapped around. So make sure it goes back to where it needs to go. Have a look. Excellent. Then we go through the guide on the side of the machine. This one just from forward and around, and then we come to our needle. Threading the needle, we have another guide on top of the needle here. So we're just going to literally just go straight through that one, straight down, and then through our needle, front to back. And there we go. The machine is threaded. While we're here, let's look at our feet and needles and how to change those as well. So let's talk about changing our feet and needles. Like I said at the start, you should have a 2.5mm Allen key, and this is to undo the screw on the foot and also on your needle. So let's have a look how easy it is to change your feet. So you undo it, don't go all the way, and then if you need to, you can lift up your hopping foot because it is just hops, and then as you saw, our foot dropped off. And then we can replace it with our open toe. You can just angle it in, and again, if you need to, you can lift this one up to get it in there. Just like so, and tighten it back up again. But I want to have my closed toe on, so I'm going to put that one back on. Now let's look at changing the needle. So same idea with the 2.5mm. We're just going to put it in this screw over here, and then our needle will drop out. So the needle is a completely round shank. We'll try to do a close-up photo for you. And then on one side is a groove that goes all the way down, and on the other side there's a little cutout. So you can have a look at your needles and you'll be able to feel that. So that groove that goes all the way down is what the thread sits in as it goes in and out of the fabric. And then of course we have the needle hole, which needs to be directly at 6 o'clock. So we'll put that one back in. So you can see I go down first and then up. And then I tighten it up with my fingers. Make sure I've got the needle in the correct way. The needle hole directly at 6 o'clock. And then with my hex, just give it a little tighten to make sure it doesn't fall out. Then we can thread it back up again, and we're almost ready to get stitching. Next up we have our bobbin. So I've got my bobbin case in the machine, so if I need to take it out, I've got my release lever here. So all I need to do is lift that lever and pull it forward, and that will release my bobbin case. Every time you change your bobbin, you'll want to fluff and oil as you go. So with your fluff brush, you want to get right in the bobbin case area, and then also all around it, and get all that fluff out. It will get fluffy, trust me, it does. And then with our oil, we're going to put a drop of oil just on this very front ledge here. So just a little squeeze. That's probably a little bit too much, but that's okay. So making sure it's just on that very front ledge, just a little drop. Then we can put our bobbin case in and we can get quilting. But before we do that, we need to test our bobbin tension. Alright, so we've wound our bobbin nice and full. We've got our bobbin case. So now we need to put it in and test our tension. With my bobbin, the thread is coming off clockwise. I hold my bobbin case with this gap at the bottom and place it in. Once I've got that, I'm going to hold both together. Then I grab that tail and bring it round till the slot over here. Then I tug it round the corner, and that puts it under the tension on the bobbin case. Then what I do, put it in the palm of my hand, lift the tail, and then our bobbin should stand up. So you want your bobbin case to stand up. You don't want it to be a little bit floppy or lift off your palm. Alright, so we're aiming for the perfect tension. If you do need to adjust, you have two screws, a large screw and a small screw. We only touch the large screw because the small one holds it all together. So, just like our tension, right to tight, left to loose. So, I'm just going to make this look bad so you guys know what not to do. Alright? So see that? My bobbin case doesn't even stand up. So that is far too loose. So I'm going to adjust that larger screw. Give it another go. Oh, we're trying to stand up. So it's got a little bit more guts, but it still needs more. Let's go a bit more. Oh, there we go. So it's standing up, but it's just wanting to fall over still. So we'll go tighten again. And this time, look at that. It stands up, almost lifts off the palm, which is what we're after. So if you go too tight, what's going to happen is it's just going to do absolutely nothing. It's going to be stuck. Alright? So you want that little sweet spot in between. So it stands up, but doesn't lift off. And that is your perfect tension. So you want that sort of tension for whatever thread you have wound in the bobbin, okay? That way our bobbin is set and all our adjustment will now be up the top. So let's chuck it in and then get quilting. Once we've tested our tension, we can put our bobbin case back in. So we're making sure our release lever is horizontal. There's no need to hold it or anything. Put it over the spindle and a firm press. Make sure you hear that click as it goes in. If you don't hear the click, take it out and just try it again and get that click. And then we're ready to start quilting. Now let's look at our screen. So this is our home screen here. Depending what version you have, it may look a little bit different. With our version, it's the latest version, and we have two different stitch modes. We have manual and regulated. Because we're using the Insight table, we have the built-in stitch regulation. If you don't have that, you will just have your manual mode. So let's talk about that one first. With your manual mode, it works with a percentage of speed. So you can go from 0 to 100%, but your machine stitches at 1800 stitches per minute. So that percentage is your stitches per minute. So 50% would be 900 stitches, which I'll show you what that looks like a little bit later. With that, you have 3 different quick save options. So if your favorite speed was, say, 30%, and for something and then something else it was a little bit faster, you could go in, change your speed up the top, click on that floppy disk, and then you've saved it as a quick save. Within regulated, you have your stitches per inch. So you can go all the way from a 4 stitches per inch all the way up until an 18. I generally stitch between a 10 and a 12 when using regulated mode. With regulated mode as well, you also have your cruise speed. So your cruise speed is the constant speed the machine is stitching at. Again, I'll show you that when we get stitching, and that will make more sense. Next up, we have our needle stop position. We can have it stop up or stop down. So when I'm doing ruler work, I like to have my needle stop in a down position, and just every other free motion, stop up or down. It's up to you, personal preference. This number here, depending on the age of your machine as well, will either be here or not. So this number is the easy set tension. So if I adjust my tension dial, that number will change. And that's just telling you roughly what your tension is set at. Next up, we have our needle down and needle up. So if I hit that, my needle will go down. If I hit it again, my needle will go up. One above is our basting function. So you can baste every half a second, every 3/4, every 1 second, and every 1.5, and also every 2 seconds. So that will literally just drop a stitch every second that you put it on. And that's pretty much all we've got on our home screen. So let's look at the more. In the more, we have our low bobbin alarm. So with your low bobbin, how you set this one up is you put a full bobbin in there and you hit this record button. What that will do, it will set the bobbin count to 0 and it will record how long you stitch for. Once you've figured out how long you stitch for or how long that bobbin lasts, you can type in what it is, and then again you can quick save to do that. And then set your alarm to be that number, whatever the number is, 90, 110, 95, whatever it is for you. And then an alarm will sound to tell you that your bobbin is running low. Then we can go back. We have our options. So we have our volume, so all the beeping it does. And then our brightness up and down as well is the LED light ring by our needle. System information, it has our serial number, which is just for your records. Then our C-pod and display, hardware and software versions. Under that you have your stitch counters, so your lifetime stitch count, so however many stitches it's ever done. And then your project stitch count, which we can reset. So if someone asks, how many stitches did this take? You can say, oh, it took 500,000, it took 2 million, whatever it may be. Languages, we just want English. If you tap it, it will go through different languages. We have timers. So the top timer is basically just a countdown. So I like to put my timer on for 30 minutes, 45, so then it forces me to take a break. Because stitching for hours on end, you will be really, really sore the next day. The one underneath is our project timer. So we can hit it to record, and then when someone asks, how long did this take to quilt? You can say it took absolutely 7 minutes and 36 seconds. Right? But remember, this is only recording the time it's physically stitching, not all the time you're sitting there thinking about what to stitch. A calculator, just because there's a calculator, you can do some calculations. And then diagnostics. So if something goes wrong, you're going to call your technician, and then they will talk you through the diagnostics. And then we go back to our main screen. So that is our screen, how to use it. So let's get stitching. Okay, so before we get quilting, I know we're gonna get quilting. We need to test our tension. So I would just grab a small piece of fabric like this, a bit of wadding and a bit of backing, called a quilt sandwich, just a small piece to test our tension. So let's give it a go. So to start off, what I'm gonna do is go needle down, needle up with either my screen or my foot pedal, doesn't matter. And then what that will do will bring my bobbin thread to the top. So you can see I've got a high contrast thread here, so a blue and a red, so you can see it. Now we're going to test our tension. So I've got hold of both my top and bottom threads. I'm going to do a couple of stitches on the spot just to lock it in place, and then let's do some stitching. So it looks really good on top, right? And you can see I've done some swirly bits and some bits with some pointy bits, because that's generally where you're going to see the tension pull. Flip it over and we can see that doesn't look too crash hot, does it? So we can see that the top thread is coming to the bottom and it's actually being pulled in. So this is what we call eyelashing. right? So what that means is our top thread is coming to the bottom, so we need to give the top a bit more muscle to pull it back up. So let's do a little bit more stitching, but first we have to tighten our tension. So I'm going to do basically a full rotation. Let's have a look at it now. So the top still looks pretty good. I can kind of see just a little bit of blue coming through. But then if I flip it to the back, look at that. No more red, right? So I've probably gone a little bit too far with my tension. So remember I said I did a whole turn. So on our tension unit, it is 32 segments to a full rotation, right? So if you're just going to do a tiny little turn, it's going to have absolutely no effect on the tension at all. So I'm going to back it off maybe a quarter. So still a little bit of blue coming through, so maybe another quarter. And that looks pretty damn good to me on the top. Flip it over, and pretty excellent on the bottom. So that's simple tension, right? If you ever get big loops on the bottom, it means your thread is not in the top tension discs. So you need to refloss it in and make sure it's in there. Alrighty, let's find my quilting speed. So remember I said we're currently on 30%. So 30% for me is too slow because this is the speed that I like to stitch at. And those stitches are awfully large, right? So I physically need to speed up the machine. So I'm going to go to 45%. Now you'll hear the machine sounds different because it's working 15% faster, right? I'm still going to move at the same speed. So we can see my stitches are smaller because it's physically stitching faster. But I could probably even go a little bit faster. So I might go to 55%. And for me, that is a much better stitch length. So it doesn't matter that the machine's working faster, you need to keep moving at the same speed because we can speed the machine up to suit you. So if I move faster or slower, the machine is going to speed up or slow down depending what I'm doing, right? So let's have a look at that again. So that's on my 10 stitches per inch. So let's make it a little bit smaller. Let's go to a 12. It's a little bit smaller, and then let's go a little bit bigger, say an 8. Which is about roughly what I was getting in my manual mode. So I could probably go a little faster in my manual mode, and then I'll get smaller stitches. And the cruise, so the cruise was at 11, so if I put my foot down and don't move, that speed is your cruise speed. So if you find that too fast, you can drop that down, and then that will just stitch a little bit slower until it senses movement, and then you're away. How it senses movement is underneath you have a sensor either side of your needle plate. So both these sensors need to be covered to get your stitch regulation. So hopefully that's inspired you to get quilting and having lots of fun with your Handi Quilter Sweet 16.